Support for this podcast comes from Frito-Lay and the 2023 Snack Bracket Championship. The Frito-Lay Snack-A Challenge is underway, and fans are voting on their favorite snacks to crown champion. We're talking about prime-time matchups between the best 64 snacks in the land. Will Ruffles Ridges reign supreme? Can Doritos defend their dynasty? Or will Smart Food use their smarts for a surprise upset? Only you can decide. Get in on all the action for a chance to win up to $1,000 or a year's worth of snacks. Let your snacks be heard. Just go to fritolaysnacket.sbnation.com to vote and enter for a chance to win. No purchase necessary. Sweepstakes ends April 3rd, 2023. Void where prohibited. Year's worth of snacks awarded in the form of 52 coupons, each good for one bag of chips. See official rules at fritolaysnacket.sbnation.com.
This is the Black Gold Banneret Podcast. Now, here are your hosts, Jeff Sharon and Eric Lopez.
Wow, that was perfect.
That was the news reporting kid
that was the sound effect that we need Kyle to use.
That was
right?
that was the news reporting kid that I sent over to Eagle Creek. Actually,
Jeez.
He just texted me. Or he just texted me.
We need to stop and just restart this.
No, we're going to pick it up from right here. What's up? Welcome to the Black Gold Banneret Podcast. Jeff, Eric, Bryson, and Drew with you here. Recording on a Tuesday morning. Why are you putting it out so early, Jeff? Well, it's because I was putting it out so late earlier. And so we're like, hey, we're going to do things a little bit different. We're going to get the show out, try and get the show out earlier in the week. You know, we all got kids, we all got families, we're busy all the time. So finally, you know, we have all gotten ourselves onto the same page here. And we have, Eric, we are eyeball deep in the sports equinox of the spring, aren't we?
Well, in reality, there's only one sport that matters, and it starts this Thursday night, ladies and gentlemen. It's here.
Hey. Tennis and golf have something to say about that right now.
Who? Well, Bryson can get into that later. UCF Softball is here, ladies and gentlemen. Your 18th ranked UCF Knights who will open against Georgia. As somebody asked me this weekend, can UCF Softball save the UCF spring season? We'll find out later on.
And Eric is completely unbiased in his opinion.
Yeah, as always. So we'll preview UCF softball a little bit later. We got a couple other details to wrap up. Also, tennis and golf. Golf getting their spring season underway. Bryson is closely following that. But we want to start out. Obviously, we haven't done too much basketball since our last show on Friday, but we're going to start by recapping UCF men's basketball earlier this week. On Saturday, they dropped to 13-9. The losing streak is now to 5. 73-64 loss at Cincinnati in a game where they were down 16, fought back to within one. Eric, was it? They were within? And
one possession at least.
Yeah, it was a one-possession game in the final minutes, but they just couldn't get over the hump once again, despite a great effort. I thought this was one of Taylor Hendricks' best games yet overall. 21 points, 8 rebounds, 1 block, 2 assists, 4 of 9 from 3, 7 of 14 from the field. He did it all, especially during the comeback. CJ Kelly was fantastic too, 6 of 9 from the field, 17 points, 3 assists, 4 rebounds, and 2 steals. Darius Johnson had 12. Not a great shooting day for him, 4 of 12. Also, Ithiel Horton struggled from the field at 1 of 6. But the key for Cincy was Victor Locken and David DeJulius, 20 and 19 respectively. And the Bearcats get out of Fifth Third Arena, which the only arena in the country named after an improper fraction, and they send UCF down to their 5th loss. And again, it's the same thing that we've talked about through this entire streak, Eric. It's just not having Michael Durr affects both the offense and the defense. It clogs up the lane on offense and it opens the lane on defense. And Cincinnati took advantage of it. I mean, there's just that lack of depth with that injury is just killing UCF right now.
Well, they had no Brandon Suggs in the game. He's out. We don't know the status there moving forward.
Yeah, well, that's a good point too. Another key defender out on the perimeter, right?
Yeah, Drew, this season's broken, isn't it, Drew? Like another, I don't think, even when Dirt does get back, this is kind of a big, now you're up against it. I mean, you're going to have to hope for a miracle conference tournament run just to have a postseason run. This team gives up over 70 points again against Cincinnati. They've given up over 70 points during this losing streak. Just not a healthy roster. It's a shorthanded roster. There's no depth. No room for error, and I'm sorry to say. I mean, it's just that I don't think you overcome this, Drew.
Well, there's also a consistency problem. Look, Ithiel Horton, 1 of 6 for 2 points. I mean, you can't win games when he's basically non-existent on the floor. This team struggles with depth, so they need those starters to put out product, and it's not there. Taylor Hendricks carried this team as much as he could. But that's asking a lot for one man to do. And there's only go so far. We've seen what Horton can do. He can light up the scoreboard, and even if it's just 10 points, you can't get by with just a 2-point showing on one of basically what's right now been your third best scorer in the recent games with who's left on the floor. You can't do that. Darius Johnson, I think, stepped up big and covered a lot. But you got to have more out of Horton. And I think you're seeing the lack of consistency that has dogged UCF for years. We saw this out of Brandon Mahan for multiple years, where he'll score 30 points and then put up a bagel and get nothing. So that lack of consistency has dogged this program for a long time. And we're just seeing it just with a different packaging.
I went back through the numbers here, and I went through before the Michael Durr injury and after, and we still don't know when he's going to be back. We're coming up next week will be what, Eric? 1 month. I think it was the 12th he had surgery on that broken hand. But prior to the injury, and this is where these offensive and defensive numbers. Prior to Durr's injury, UCF was averaging giving up 60 points per game. Since the injury, they're giving up 83 per game, a plus 23-point difference. Now, what goes into that? Well, for one thing, teams are making more shots. They're making 28 field goals a game as opposed to 23 from before. They're getting to the line more often, 8 more free throw attempts for the opponent per game. They're making 8 more. And they're rebounding, even though the offensive rebounding has given the same, teams are getting 5 more defensive rebounds per game against UCF. And then the other thing is on the offensive end for the Knights, offensive rebounds have gone down by 2 per game, total rebounds down by 2, turnovers up 3. And shooting percentage down 2 percentage points. By the way, opponents are shooting 7.7% better without Michael Durr on the floor than on Michael Durr. And listen, you could look at Mike's stats and say, well, he was only averaging 4.9 points, 4.7 rebounds. But the presence of a 7-footer on the floor matters for what Coach Dawkins wants to do, right? I mean, the proof is in the pudding.
I found a magic number. The magic number is 70. If UCF gives up 70 points, they have 1 win all year. If they give up less than 70, they have a lot more wins all year. But they've only won 1 game.
Oh, 12. 12.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
They've only, if you look through the entire year, go all the way back, the only game that they've given up 70 points or more and won was the overtime game against Samford, which they won 80-77. Every other game they gave up 70 or more, they lost. Now, granted, one of those was that double overtime. I discount the double overtime thriller against Memphis because it's overtime. It's going to stack up. I guess you could say 2 wins at that point. But if regulation, if they give up 70, they lose. So there's your barometer right there.
Yeah, I mean, and now it doesn't get any easier because this week's schedule has them at Wichita on Wednesday, Eric, ESPN Plus, Wednesday night, 8 p.m. For one thing, they're not starting the game at Wichita at like 9. And then home for Tulsa. Now, this is the space game on Saturday, 7 p.m., also on ESPN Plus. But as I'm taking a look, believe it or not, Eric, though the situation involving UCF's net ranking, I feel like it could be worse because 2 of those losses are quadrant 1 losses, and one of them is a quadrant 2 loss as well. So they've dropped in the net from a peak of 35 after the Memphis double overtime game down to 70 right now. Granted, precipitous fall, but it's not as bad as I thought it would be.
Well, they had a good resume. That's what it is. But it doesn't matter. I mean, now they go. The good news is this will be the last time we ever have to go to Wichita in basketball, so that's good. Tulsa's terrible, but the good news is we got space jerseys. So let's get to the moment that the audience really cares about the basketball because it's not on the court anymore. It's the jerseys. Drew, thoughts on the space jerseys?
Well,
I already know what Drew's going to say.
I mean, as we've talked about it reminds me of the 1990, the mid to late 90s Cleveland Cavaliers with the splash.
Yeah, the old John Battle, Bobby Phils.
When they moved to Gund Arena, 94.
Gund Arena, yeah. Terrell Brandon, and then later Sean Kemp.
What
was left of Sean Kemp, I should say.
Well, I mean, he just kept getting bigger. Yeah, I like the fact that they decided to make a word mark very similar to what you have with the Knights script, with the Knot script. UCF's doing something very interesting. So the Citronaut logo is a very outdated logo itself. So they're modernizing everything around it except the specific logo. And I think that's actually very clever. People are like, oh, they're going to rebrand. I don't think they're going to rebrand so much, but they've made it that they could switch pretty easily if they wanted to. But they basically set it up where they can have a completely separate set of marks and logos they can run with something. I think the overall uniform itself is a little bit mailed in, but then again, UCF's going through a minimalistic phase. So they're not overdoing on the flash.
Let's be fair. The minimalistic phase you're talking about has kind of been forced by the fact that they're still
with Nike
on the end of the supply chain issues here, though.
Well, it's partially that. It's also they're on a 2-year bridge contract with Nike. Read between the lines. If this supply chain issues weren't a thing, UCF would already be an Adidas school. Listen to Terry Mohajir's comments about it. He basically kind of told you that it just wasn't the right time, and that's the time.
Well, we don't know exactly who it would be, though. To be fair,
there's really no one else in the market at this point. Under Armour has bailed out of most contracts, and there's not really a third player in there. But at this point, you're in a bridge contract, so you're kind of just holding your breath for a couple years, and things could change. We'll see what happens after next year, into the summer. But I'm pretty sure conversations already happened. As we know, when UCF joined with Nike, it was in a very bad situation. Nike didn't have to give them really anything. UCF was caught in a very bad situation after the whole Marcus Jordan situation. But let's be real. UCF lost financially when they switched over. Adidas was going to give them money as opposed to just discount on product. So we've seen extension after extension of the contract. This is technically still a continuation of the original Nike deal. We're just seeing a kind of evolution where right now everything's kind of just, I don't want to say bare bones, but it's a very minimalistic design. But I think part of that is we're kind of holding our breath till the next chapter starts.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think that the next, I don't know what the next iteration of it is. I just do know that I like that Knott's script. It's sort of a slightly edgier move on the Knights script, going with the apostrophe Knots there. I'd be interested to see if we see that again during baseball season, by the way.
I'd be perfect for a baseball. Oh, but then again, the Knights script is a baseball mark.
Right. It started that way at least.
Well, it by design it is. It's designed to be a baseball mark. It's just being used elsewhere, but that's a baseball mark. Yeah. Let's call it what it is.
Back to basketball for a second here, Eric. I want to talk to you about. So UCF right now 4-6 in the conference, 13-9.
So depressing
overall. Well, here's the deal. Like, you're still.
Let's just Drew, help us, Drew.
You're still 5-6. Well, Wichita's 5-6 in the conference, and I'm not saying. I think we can officially. You're right. I think we can officially kind of all but throw out the possibility of an at-large, which sucks, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
But let's say, for the sake of argument, that Michael Durr comes back for this little bit of a stretch run, and so does Brandon Suggs, by the way. We still don't know what the deal is with him. You're looking at a team that I think, if they get their full complement of guys back, could be a rather dangerous team come the conference tournament, March 9th through the 12th. No?
It's a big if they come back.
Who knows? I know.
I don't know.
He's making a blanket of something, like all things being equal, if this if they can get their full staple of guys back, aside from the fact that you hit the reset button on the season, because we know what happens with the lack of depth and all that other stuff, there's still a quad one game still on the schedule. That's at Memphis on the 16th.
Yeah.
We don't know if Michael Durr will be back by then, but that's a big one. If UCF's still in the hunt for an NIT spot, an at-large, I think is done. Sure. I think that's out the window. Could they make a run in the conference tournament? Sure, anyone can. We've seen it. But I think more realistically, it's going to be hunting for the NIT. But they really need to win at least one of those top 100 net games. You got at Memphis, they're 47th. Home for Cincinnati on the 19th, they're 74. You need one of those two, as well as the rest of the slate. Tulsa is one of the worst teams in Division I. They're ranked 295, and they still got a home and home left with them. But as we know, UCF there's some weird voodoo magic. UCF at Tulsa never ends well. And if you have that quad 4 loss on your conscience and your record, that's going to hurt come postseason time.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, but you're still, golly, you just left so many of them on the table there, and wasn't Cincinnati just a microcosm of what's been going on? Yeah, they get punched in the face here early, they make a charge back, but they just run out of gas, and you're hoping that they get something back in the tank for this last 8-game stretch. You were mentioning, Drew, one quad 1 game at Memphis coming up. Not to mention 3 more quad 2 games, including this next one at Wichita, also at Temple and home for Cincy. So 2 more quad 2s, or 3 more quad 2s and a quad 3 against South Florida. Got to get that one back. And of course, the 3 other quad 4s are the 2 Tulsa games and the ECU game to wrap up the regular season on March the 5th. So let's go from here and figure out what they decide to or what they can do. It's just tough when you're shorthanded. Over on the women's side, they struggled again at home against ECU. 68-54 was the final. Bryson was there for that one. Ashton Verhulst came back for UCF. Haven't seen her in a long time. She actually got off to a good start this season. 2 of 4 in 13 minutes. Destiny Thomas came off the bench, 5 at 12, 14 points to lead UCF. Layla Jewett was at 10 points on 3 of 7 shooting, but it really was a tough shooting night overall for UCF. 32% on the night compared to 46% for ECU. Now I think is the situation, Bryson, where they are just trying to hang on to, whatever place they get in the standings. Right now they're second to last in this rebuilding year at 10-10 and 1-7 in the conference. Where do you see this team going now with at this tough stretch this week? At Cincinnati Wednesday, at Memphis on Saturday. And as I'm looking at the standings here, Cincinnati's the one team that's below UCF in the standings, and Memphis can be had 13-9, 5-4, but what do they need to get a break here?
With the position Cincinnati's in the conference, you have to win this game, or else I think it's going to be if you lose against Cincinnati, and they have a home and home, but losing to Cincinnati, I think, would be a major demoralization for this team. I mean, Destiny Thomas can only do so much. Did you know that she's had a double-double in half of this season's games so far? Half of them. I mean, and they're
playing well.
Now they're at 500. I mean, essentially, I talked to Coach Messer afterwards, and while she appreciated the team's fight in the fourth quarter, because they actually did outscore ECU in the fourth quarter, this is a team that they need to establish the foundation with, and right now they basically just had to fill a hole that was left by the departures of last year's team. There is some promise here. I'm not going to say that there isn't anything bad to look at here. I think that you let this team gather itself. I think that we could really get something with some more time. But unfortunately, with the way that this season is kind of shaken out, it's just one of those things where you have to really get used to things. You need to figure out what this team is. And I think they just need the time to do that. And right now they're just trying to kind of see what works and work with what they have.
Yeah, I mean it's rough, but I feel like we knew it was going to come this way, right? I mean, they're going to take their lumps for sure. It would be nice to see them just get one thing going right for them, just to have a little bit of positive momentum going into the home stretch here. I don't know, maybe we haven't seen it yet. Maybe we'll see it at some point. All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, it's time to talk a little softball. Eric Lopez.
Oh, thank goodness! Holy positive news, folks, is coming. We hope. I swear.
We're going to preview UCF Softball, who gets their start this week at home against Georgia. Plenty more. Stick around. It's the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast.
Today's episode is brought to you by Cars.com. With over 2 million vehicles and 50,000 more added every day, Cars.com will match you with the perfect car for you, your budget, your life, your style. And if you're ready to say goodbye to your current car, Cars.com will get you an instant offer to cash it in. Just start by entering your license plate and get matched with a local dealer who will write you the check. So whether you're looking to buy or sell, just go to Cars.com. It's magical.
We are back here on the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast. Jeff Sharon, Eric Lopez, Andrew Glukov, Bryson Turner joining us. And, hey, spring sports, that means it's time to hit the diamond. And Eric Lopez, we're going to start with your UCF softball team coming off of, I guess we could say, yes, the best season in school history. Certainly it is in terms of postseason accomplishments. Made the regionals. Against the number one team in the country, Oklahoma, last year. Picked once again to win the American this year in their final year. Last year record 49-14, 16-2 in the conference, 29-5 at home. You remember last year they started the season with that thrilling extra inning walk-off win, 7-6 in 8 innings over the University of Georgia. Of course, they won the Orlando Regional by beating Villanova once in Michigan twice. Won the American against South Florida. Man, what do you do to follow that up, Eric? I mean, they're picked, like we said, once again to win the American. They had 4 of the 7 first-place votes. Wichita State had the other 3, followed by South Florida, Houston, Tulsa, ECU, Memphis to round it out. So, a relatively small field, once again, for softball here in the American ELO, but, we've seen how that can work in their favor and also against their favor, because if you fall in a hole, you don't have that many games to make up. So it comes down to this non-conference schedule, and that's tough yet again.
Very tough. It opened up opening night against Georgia, match 365 days in the making. You got Ohio State, which marks the return of UCF's former assistant, Whitney Jones. Boise State, which is where Coach Ball Malone coached. Then they go to Clearwater for the ESPN tournament. You got Alabama, Michigan, Duke, Mississippi State, Texas A&M. You got Missouri home midweek, Louisiana midweek. So it's a big challenge early in particular I mean, we're not even talking about them going to UCLA later in the year and Oklahoma State. But the good news is they return pretty much the nucleus of their offense, pretty much everybody, including Jada, Cody, and Shannon Doherty, which since they've arrived on campus back in 2020, this program has done nothing but winning. I had a chance to recently catch up with Jada, Cody, and Shannon Doherty to talk about last season and their expectations for this year.
All right, here with Shannon Doherty, Jada, Cody, the captains. I'm going to ask you both, you came together from the first day. I'm just curious, take me through that first time you two met, starting with you, Shannon.
Oh, man, that was a long time ago. We just talked about it. I don't have a good memory, Elo. But I just remember us coming in our freshman year, and we were just two super competitive people that just were going to stop at nothing to win. And I don't think that's changed much. And we've just, as the years have gone on, me and Jada have gotten closer and closer and become better friends and better teammates and better leaders. And it's just been awesome to be able to grow together and just kind of create these names for ourselves in this program.
Yeah, from day one, we've always been super competitive and knew that we wanted something bigger than ourselves. And it shows, like, we're the only two from our class that's still here. So just knowing that and having the same mindset is definitely important and being captains together.
Describe Shannon as a player.
She's super competitive. You always see her going hard every pitch, every play, and she doesn't stop. So I think she's just a great player. She's a great teammate as well. Being a great teammate definitely has helped her be successful on the field.
All right, you describe Jada there.
I think I could describe Jada in very similar ways, and I think that's why we bond and we click so well, is because we are very similar players, and our competitiveness takes over sometimes, and that's a good thing, but it's also sometimes not so good because we do have to be those leaders and we have to be selfless. But I would just describe Jada as a competitive beast out there that is just going to do whatever the team needs to win a game and to put this program to the next level. And she's consistent, and consistency in this game is key.
Obviously, describe this team this year.
This team is extremely talented, and this team has the opportunity to do things that this program has never seen before, and I'm super excited about that. And the thing that excites me the most about this team is that we have a chip on our shoulder, and we have momentum. So I think that if we combine those two things and our talent with this amazing culture and foundation that this program has, we're going to do things that are just mind-blowing.
I think we have more talent than we've ever had at UCF. So just having that in the back of our head, knowing that we have a goal of being top 8 is definitely important. Knowing that 1 through 25 is going to be key to our success this year. But I'm excited to see what this team has.
What's it like having Coach Sally as your hitting coach?
It's awesome. Coach Jen is, probably the most knowledgeable softball coach or person. Like she just knows so much about the game itself. She's like a human softball encyclopedia. It's kind of insane, actually. But to have someone that's that knowledgeable and to be around them every day and to get to learn from them every day and to get to learn from someone that has the experiences that she has. She's been a champion on every single level. And that's just amazing to be around. And lastly, she just empowers us and she loves us so much. So it's such a great feeling to be around a coaching staff that just has so much love and passion and empowerment for us, not only as players, but as people.
I can say the same thing. Just the joy that Coach Jen gets out of being our head coach is so important. You can see that she loves giving back to what taught her and brought her up, and just knowing that she was at the top of the level. She was an Olympian. She was one of the top hitters in the Olympics. So just having that and knowing that she has every knowledge you can think about. She has a whole bunch of hitting books. So just knowing that, I think our hitting this year has definitely increased enormously. So just having that and knowing that we're good, we're in a good place as the hitters is definitely important for us.
Of the new faces, describe for Knight fans what to expect of the new faces on the team.
You can see a lot of personalities. They love dancing, screaming. There's a lot of personalities, but I think it all clicks together as one. But you're gonna definitely see a lot of personalities, us dancing, singing on the field. So yeah.
Yeah, I would say the same thing. There is definitely a lot of personality here, but that's what's so good about this program is we're part of a culture that allows that and allows us to be our best selves. But I think you're also going to see some crazy talent. I think these freshmen are going to come in here and surprise some people and make waves, and I can say the same thing about the transfers. And I'm excited about that competitive culture because these girls are coming in trying to take veteran spots, and that's awesome because it just makes us work that much harder every single day. So, I think you're just going to get to see a lot of competitiveness and a lot of people with the chip on their shoulder out there.
You both have shown confidence in this pitching staff. Describe where's that confidence come from? Because people from the outside are like, well, you lost Gianna, you lost Kamo, but I know in talking to both of you and talking to the other players, you're all confident in this pitching staff as a whole and what they offer.
They all offer different things, some with change-ups, some with a really hard speed and go up and down, side to side. So just having different versatility with our pitching staff is going to be important. We have some veterans, we have some young pitching staff, but it's going to be key to our success this year. We need 1 through 7 of them on the mound, and we're going to pitch as a committee this year. But I think just having that and knowing that they're going to be the queen on the field and they're going to protect us and we're going to protect them is going to be important this year.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't have said that better. And I also think our confidence is a testament to our pitching coaching staff, like Coach Barron and Coach Barrett and Shannon in there. Coach Barrett's just a genius when it comes to pitching, and I have all the confidence in the world that she is going to make those pitchers their best selves, without a doubt. And Shannon just brings that new level of experience that this program just doesn't necessarily have. And she understands what it takes for those pitchers to be those queens and to be the top dog and to be the confident person out there. And she gets to bring that side of it to things in a fresh way. And I've been hanging out in the bullpen a lot lately, and I'm very confident in what we got going on in there.
Is there that confidence that comes with the success you have last year, that confidence going into the year that, hey, we've done this, we know what we're doing? Do you sense that with this team, the returners especially, that there's that confidence, we've done this, we know what you got to do? Whereas last year maybe you thought you could do it, we think we could do it, now you know you could do it.
Last year no one had ever won regionals, so having that confidence now and it's okay, we've already been there, now let's repeat it and do better and get high, reach higher for our goals. So it definitely gives us a lot of confidence, and the veterans are definitely going to help the newbies. They know it's okay that the crowd's loud and they might be screaming their chants, but Night Nation's with us and we have each other 1-25 and the whole coaching staff. So just having that behind that and rallying behind that's going to be important for us to be successful.
Yeah, absolutely. Confidence comes from preparation, from winning, and we've done both of those. So, last year, like Jada said, we know what it looks like now, and it's kind of validation of what we're doing here works. Our culture works, our core values work, exuding those every day when it's easy and when it's hard works, doing the right thing when no one's watching, all those things work. You can have fun and be your best self and still win at the same time. And it's just, like I said, it's just validating, and we just need to keep doing what we're doing and remember the things that got us there, and, we'll be in a good position if we keep doing that.
Shannon, Doherty, Jada, Cody, thanks for talking to me.
Thank you.
And thanks again to Jada, Cody, and Shannon Doherty. The 1-2 punch, maybe the best 1-2 punch UCF softball's had offensively since really Shinhoster best. That's one that's kind of synonymous. I think Doherty and Cody is synonymous. The offense will be great. The biggest question that everybody has is the pitching staff. You lose Gianna Mancha, you lose Kamo Woodall. You have 7 pitchers, which includes 3 returners and a transferred Sarah Willis, and then 3 freshmen. They have combined for 166 innings pitched in Division I softball going into the season. That's the big question. And, Cindy Ball Malone, which you can watch our interview I had with Coach Ball Malone on our Black Gold Banneret YouTube channel. That's going to be the question. Is it going to be more by committee? Does a couple of pitchers step up? Look, this is high expectations. This is my 16th year UCF softball. By far the biggest expectations. It's getting football-type expectations in coverage, which means what used to be a great season, which is make the tournament, some people are going to be disappointed, including internally. So it's interesting. The pitching is going to determine how good this team is this year. If they're really good, close to what they were last year, they've got a chance to host the regionals and make a deep run. Their goal is to OKC. If the pitching struggles, if it's inconsistent, then they're going to struggle. It's going to be a fight to win the conference and make the regional. So I think that's really all eyes are going to be on the pitching. And I think you're going to see a lot of arms early in the season.
Isn't that always the case, though, every year when we talk about softball?
Yeah, it's just weird at UCF, which has so much history with pitching. It's rare that they're this young pitching. Now, look, they're talented. Caitlin Felton was the 63rd best ranked player coming out of high school. Sarah Willis, the transfer from Washington, is a two-way player, is a top 10 recruit. It's talented, but it's young. And it's going to get tested with this schedule. So we'll see how long does it take them to kind of get their feet wet. Last year's staff, it took them a month, really, before they kind of hit their stride. So don't be surprised. UCF may have to win some high-scoring games early this season to get through here early on. But, again, it's a marathon, as they say, and they have the offense to do it. They've added a Jasmine Williams now, who's going to be at shortstop. They moved Michaela Macariel to the second base, which is her natural position. They've got two freshmen, and Aubrey Evans and Honda Lewis, who are top 30 players in the country coming out of this 25th ranked recruiting class. So, and they only have one player, senior, that has eligibility finished after this year, Elise Volpe. Everybody else has eligibility after this year. So this is the nucleus that's going to go right into the Big 12 next year.
So I was going to say, so you're saying, this team is like, they're about as set, I think, as any program in terms of getting ready for the Big 12, right? They're as set as they're going to be. So let me ask you this. All the accolades that Jada, who we heard about earlier, has talked about, obviously Shannon, the walk-off queen that we've come to know and love. Who's the player in your mind that, and maybe you've already mentioned them, that is going to be the breakout star for them that we're going to be saying, hey, Jada and Shannon, they were great this year, but this player right here could be the future of the program going forward into the Big 12?
Ooh, that's a good question. You hope it's one of the pitchers, whether it be Caitlin Felton. It could be Sarah Willis, who's a two-way player, has tremendous power with her bat. She's going to be a two-way player, old school player. She could be that player as well if she can just kind of put it all together. Aubrey Evans is a kid to watch. She has a lot of Natalie Land qualities when I watch her play. The question is, where is she going to play on this team this year? They might move her around the infield and in catching because they're so deep. But that's a freshman from this class. And the next player might be in next year's class. Next year's class is ranked 16th best class in the country. No team on campus right now is recruiting like UCF Softball and benefited from the Big 12. So there's a few others, but I would say those are the names. But I think the biggest thing is which pitchers step up. Is it Felton, the sophomore, a Willis? Who steps up of those young pitchers? You would like to have an established pitcher with confidence going into the Big 12 and obviously going into this year to win the conference. The good news is every great pitcher in the American graduated this past year. So like Georgina Corrick at South Florida graduated. Wichita State graduated. Their two best pitchers. So whoever's young pitching kind of steps up the quickest might win the American. If you're UCF, you're hoping it's the pitching. Sidney Ball-Malone calls it protect the queen. The pitchers are the queen. Everybody else's job is to protect them. We'll see how that goes.
I'm looking at the stats from last year, and UCF had a team hit 295. It was 44th in the country. Pretty good. But they were 28th in the country in ERA at 2.30, like you were saying. But based on what you're telling me about the players in the lineup, is it possible that if the pitching staff takes a while to get their feet underneath them, or if they maybe have their struggles throughout the year, that this team has the offense that could make up for that?
You hope that they did last year. They think they can this year. Now, that being said, remember, last year you had the walk-off win against Georgia with Doherty, the walk-off win against Ole Miss with Doherty, that dramatic come-from-behind victory against Texas where you won 15-10. Can you still win those close games, or does the ball bounce against you this year? That's one concern.
Are we gonna see more of those 15-10 games, Eric? Just tell us.
I hope not. I hope not. Those are 4-hour games. I gotta get home at some point. But we'll see. Look, and the expectations are high. Everybody's going to gun for them, and they internally know that. In fact, they expect that. They're going to critique themselves a little bit if they don't. The good news is, I can tell you, being around them, there's a confidence of, we know we can do it. Last year, it's like, we think we can do it. We hope we can do it. Now it's like, we know we could do it Now let's just do it. And so, look, and they know they were 20 miles away, literally 20 miles away from Oklahoma City, their final destination. They ran into Oklahoma and from the World, otherwise they would have been in the World Series. So, but again,
that's a generational Oklahoma team. Let's be.
And they're still, unfortunately, in the Big 12. Can we just get them out of here soon, guys? Fox, get the hell out of here! You've ruined my life as it is with the NFL.
Oh, so that's why you're all like, "Oh, we need Oklahoma to get." Yeah. It's softball. You just want Oklahoma out of there.
Correct. Because I think there's two programs that can win the Big 12 in the next couple of years: women's soccer, softball. However, as long as Oklahoma is in the leagues, UCF will not win the Big 12. Oklahoma is at a different level than everybody in the sport right now. So I do think that's going to be a big game changer as far as the Big 12 moving forward. How long is Oklahoma and Texas going to be? 1 year, 2 years? It's a difference from an on-the-field standpoint. But, that we'll see how that goes. But they believe they can get to Oklahoma City. That's the expectations. I'm going to tell you this, boys. The expectations are now football-esque. It reminds me of football 2017 coming off the season. And, remember 2018, they went undefeated. People were frustrated. Well, they're struggling this or this. I feel like softball now is in that level where people will critique every little thing. And I think they know that. It's a good problem to have because people care. All right. But it is the scrutiny now moves forward from this program.
I'm looking forward to this year in particular. Okay. So let me put this to you. Two last questions. Wichita State finished one vote behind UCF in the conference standings. Fair, or do you think somebody else could surprise everybody?
No, it's fair. It's fair. Wichita is just as good of an offense as UCF. They have Sidney McKinney, Addison Barnard, who I think could get 30-30 homers and stolen bases this year. Kind of ironic.
They also play in a wind tunnel.
They do. But it's, UCF and Wichita quietly has become a rivalry in softball. So it's ironic. It's going to end after this year. But that's going to possibly determine the conference championship. Now, Houston has the best pitcher coming back with experience, but they need to upgrade their offense. Can they do it? Maybe. They can surprise. South Florida obviously loses Georgina Corrick. That's a huge loss. But Ken Erickson knows what he's doing there. They come to UCF in April. Will that be the last time they play ever? I don't think so, but it will be as far as conference mates. So I think it's UCF or Wichita State that win the American, and it's going to come down to which of those two teams, probably young pitching, steps up the most.
56 games on the schedule, Elo. Last question. Do you think they can and that does not include postseason. Do you think they can eclipse last year's 49 win mark?
Woo! That's a big ask. I don't think so.
That is a lot. UCF has won 50 games, once before?
50 once. Yeah, 2015 they went 50. They went 50-9, and that was with postseason. 49 wins with postseason. No, I don't think they'll get to 49 for the season. I think too much young pitching. I expect some kind of. They got to take a little while to get kind of comfortable and figure out who's who and their roles and things like that. You got to think maybe the ball doesn't bounce their way as much as it did last year. I think they're still going to have a successful season. I think they could still win the league and they can make the regionals. But some people might look at that as a disappointment. That's the standards now at softball. It's like football, Drew. We've become the football level. We've reached it. I can't wait. We're going to be on the hot seat.
Not me. I'm a reasonable person.
Well, Eric, we all know that you have a thing where the moment it starts to go off the rails, it's over, end the season.
Yeah. Eric's quick to jump out of the airplane on that. Sometimes he doesn't even pull out the parachute.
And screams Leroy Jenkins as he does it.
Listen, my voice is the one that could be the one that's going to bail. I got 9 games I'm doing this weekend, including your Buckeyes, Drew, with Whitney Jones in town. So
yeah, because you're doing the non-UCF games too at the Black Gold Classic too.
That's
right?
correct. I will be renting home this weekend there at the Plex. But yeah, Ohio State, Whitney Jones, that's a big storyline. Her return. She was the hitting coach at UCF last year. Jen Salling, Olympian, national champion, takes over as the hitting coach. Boise State, that's where Coach Ball Malone coached. Kind of funny. Both baseball, softball coaches facing their former teams this year. Sydney facing Boise for the first time since she left. And then, obviously, the big one, Georgia, the rematch from last year, which was one of the games of the year. It's a marquee tournament. So, yeah, I will be there pretty much all weekend except for like early Saturday when I'm going to take a nap.
Georgia opening night Thursday, 6 p.m. at the UCF Softball Complex. UCF plays a double dip on Friday against UMass and Boise at 4 and 6:30. They finish up Saturday, 5 p.m. Ohio State. All games at
Hearing
the UCF
sellouts. I heard a
Complex.
couple sellouts this week, and I've heard them told.
I hear the Georgia folk will be showing up en masse, and there's always plenty of Ohio State people that Drew likes to alert to.
You coming down, Drew?
In Central Florida.
I do not alert people about Ohio State softball.
Sure, you don't.
better not. You better not.
Remember, Big Ten country and the spring sports like baseball and softball are not a big thing up there. They've complained about when the season starts because it's usually pretty cold.
Yeah.
So that's not the thing. Now, if it was anything football related, they'd be talking.
So season gets underway Thursday. By the way, Eric, you'll be on ESPN Plus for all those games. That's right.
All the UCF games will be on ESPN Plus. Myself and Francesca Nail will be there Thursday night and Friday night for the Boise State game and the Georgia games. Georgia Thursday, Boise Friday. I'm working with Jessica Burrows, former FSU All-American pitcher, on Saturday for the Ohio State game.
And don't forget, this week before opening day on Thursday, opening night on Thursday, Bryson has the everything you need to know about UCF softball preview coming in, where you can hear an extended interview, as Eric mentioned before, with head coach Cindy Ball Malone.
Plus a lot of Media Day videos from Media Day for softball.
A lot of content coming up for UCF softball as we get ready to prepare for them. And we will have baseball next week as they get ready for their season as well. But be on the lookout for that preview. Everything you need to know about UCF softball coming on blackandgoldbanneret.com. Eric, save up the voice.
Yeah, I'm going to take the last segment off. I'll let Bryson have fun with the other activities going on. I know Drew's licking his chops for the big Will Healy hire.
Bryson, Drew, and Nick Porcelli will join us here in a little bit. You can follow Eric at Eric Lopez Elo on Twitter. Stick around. Black and Gold Banneret Podcast is back after this. Back here on the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast, Jeff and Bryson with Drew and Nick Porcelli pops in to join us here as we wrap up the show. And some football personnel news, Andrew. Will Healy is joining UCF's staff as an offensive analyst. If his name sounds familiar, it should. He's been the head coach at Charlotte the last 3 years. He was fired in the middle of the season last year. Prior to that, interestingly enough, he was the head coach at Austin Peay the year that they came to UCF and played in 2017. Remember the Hurricanes, the Hurricane actually scotched the Georgia Tech and a scheduled game against Maine. And then UCF resumed their schedule midway through September playing at Maryland, while later on replacing the bye week that they initially had late in the season. UCF was able to schedule Austin Peay, and UCF scored what is still a school record 73 points against the Governors in that game. However, Austin Peay made a good account of themselves that year, let's not forget, because A, they scored 33 against UCF, and B, they probably should have made the FCS playoffs and just barely missed out that year, too. First time that they'd been in contention for that for a while, Drew. So what is Coach Healy, who at the time I think is 30 years old, the youngest head coach in Division I, FCS or FBS, when he took over at Austin Peay. What is the outlook for him, and what does he bring to the table for Coach Malzahn?
Well, I mean, you're starting to see the beginnings of the Gus Malzahn Redemption School. I mean, we already know that Nick Saban has one that's very well established for A-listers. This is a kind of like a lower level of that. You've seen it. G.J. Kinney gets a head coaching job. Darren.
Listen, Hinshaw, I'll take G.J. Kinney over Bill O'Brien any day of the week, just for the record.
Darren Hinshaw got himself an offensive coordinator job, came back, and now is the offensive coordinator at UCF after a year as an analyst. Now you see Will Healy. You talk about that 2017 Austin Peay squad. If it wasn't for the midseason change in their schedule that added UCF, they would have made the playoffs. That actually cost them the playoffs. Was that game. So we kind of owe them a little bit of a debt. And Healy will obviously, use this as an opportunity to get back into towards a head coaching job. I mean, winning at Charlotte for a program that's barely off the ground. I mean, that was a tough ask, and he was in a tough position. And it's a little fledgling program. So you're going to have some wins, and they started off really well, and then you're going to have some tough times, and that's what happened last year. The wheels kind of just fell off, and they cut loose. But Will Healy has already shown that he has a good resume, albeit short. He's only 38. He's younger than you and I. So I mean, this is
look what we did for a living too, huh?
Yeah,
Jeez.
In the coaching world, he's a kid, and he's got a whole career ahead of him, and he already has 2 Coach of the Years awards under his belt. We know he's got talent. So, I mean, this is a temporary solution. I don't expect him to be here more than a year, and then he's going to get hired somewhere else. But at least for this first season in the Big 12, UCF gets the advantage of his expertise.
Yeah. All right. So, I again, another analyst. Now, we saw, like you mentioned, we saw what happened with Darren Hinshaw, who is now. Now, the thing is with an analyst is they can't. So the rules, and add to this to me as well. Add to this for me as well, Drew. That they can't directly coach the players.
Correct.
Right. What are some of the other things about, because we see analysts all the time, but what do they actually do? They actually formulate game plans.
Yeah, think of the team as an egg. They have to stay outside the shell. They can interact with the coaching staff, and because his also role is special advisor to Gus Malzahn. So he's going to be, you've got, Darren Hinshaw, the offensive coordinator. He's going to be working with the players direct. And then you have a layer above that. So he can interact with coaching staff, but he can't interact with players. He can't recruit. He's there specifically for, analytical purposes and advisory purposes.
Game planning, scouting. I think that's one thing. It was a good piece that I was reading about.
They can
what
scout.
Analysts
They
do.
can't interact.
They can scout. And people were talking about the army of analysts that, for example, Nick Saban has at Alabama. And their job is specifically to pick out tendencies in the opponents to help the players to help the players be as well prepared as humanly possible. But they cannot, like you said, they cannot recruit, they cannot interact directly with the players.
And we've seen instances where it has happened, and schools have gotten in trouble for it.
Yeah, that's true. So, but Will Healy going to be involved in that for UCF. All right. Bryson, let's talk a little golf right now. And we are in the midst, we're recording this on Tuesday morning, we are in the midst of a possibly record-breaking performance for UCF women's golf. Fill us in.
So Campbell transfer, Anna Nordfors, she's a graduate student. So she went and made program history 2 days ago when she shot the first 64 in the first round of the UCF Challenge. First time ever in UCF women's golf history someone shot that. She followed that up by getting the first 63 in UCF women's golf history the very next day. So already in this UCF Challenge, she's broken the lowest round in UCF women's golf history twice. And she is currently now fighting for the individual lead in the third round of the UCF Challenge at Eagle Creek Golf Club. She currently sits at 16 under, 1 over on the day. She's actually 1 stroke back of Mississippi State's Julia Lopez Ramirez, but I've done the math, and if she's able to shoot even par on the day, she will finish with a score of 199, which will break the UCF women's golf's 54-hole record. So that's going to be something to watch as far as individually. As a team, she's supported by the number 8 player in the country, but as far as golf stats rankings go, Tanrata Pitton, she currently sits in a tie for 15th at 6 under for the tournament. And as a team, UCF sits in 4th place at 24 under on the tournament right now. They're currently 10 strokes back of Mississippi State, which when you factor in all the players, they count the scores of 4 players for these team rankings. So when you look at a 10-stroke margin and you have 4 different players on the course at once whose scores count, you could conceivably make that up. So that's going down at Eagle Creek Golf Club right now. And this kicks off their spring season, I think, with a bang.
Yeah. Men's golf, meanwhile, they finished 6th at the Haight Collegiate in Ponte Vedra, Sawgrass Country Club. Bryson, they were plus 10, one stroke off the top 5. What stood out to you from that one?
Luis Carrera. So the guy competed in the Latin American Amateur recently and got the runner-up spot in that one, and now he's gotten his third top 15th individual finish of the season at finishing one under for the tournament. Now, I think UCF actually could have gotten a little bit of a better finish because they were as high as third at one point in the tournament. Unfortunately, Johnny Travale, after shooting a 72 and a 71 in his first 2 rounds, he shot a 77, a 5-over final round that dropped him back to tie for 28th at 4-over on the tournament. This men's golf team, if you remember from last season, barely made it into an NCAA regional because Johnny Travale was playing well, and then Teddy T-Tac just broke out of nowhere to support him in that regard. So this is a team that Luis Carrera is showing promise, which is good. Somebody needs to step up to fill the hole that Teddy T-Tac left behind. But sometimes the golf course can be a little fickle, and sometimes you can have a bad day. And Johnny Travale just kind of had that bad day as a team. Vanderbilt is the number 2 ranked team in the country. They won the tournament at 28 under par. And then North Florida finished second at 12 under par. This is their home course. So it makes sense why they did as well as they did. But for a first tournament back, I would say, okay, this is an okay start, but I don't know if this is something that will get them to a regional yet, but we've still got a ways to go for that.
Women's tennis beat LSU 4-3 at home, recovering from a loss to Auburn last Sunday. So they had the week off. They beat LSU. What was the key for that one, as they are now 3-1 in play in the spring?
I've said this before last season. The biggest strength I think that UCF women's tennis has is its depth. And what I mean by depth is that the doubles play and singles play courts are divided into like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Think of them as like seeds. Your best player takes the number 1 seed, and then number 2, 3, 4, and so on. In this matchup right here, all 4 points that UCF got in this matchup came from courts 3, 4, 5, and 6, the bottom 4 courts. And so the fact that their top players ended up losing the doubles point, by the way, they lost the doubles point as well. But the fact that they had their top 2 players fall, Marie Mattel really took it to the number 7 ranked player in the country, but lost in 2 sets. And Stephanie Webb, by the way, made her UCF women's tennis debut against the number 32 ranked player in the country, and she lost there. But to see Jade Tilburger, Noelle Sayanova, Sophia Biole, and Nandini Sharma all coming out to get their wins really shows that how key that depth is going to be as this season progresses, because they pulled out the win 4-3. It was a close thing, but that depth got that win for them. This is going to be key for them as they keep going forward. I'm also interested to see what Stephanie Webb is able to do going forward now that she's made her UCF debut.
Right. Meanwhile, the men's team, they start a tough road stretch on Friday. They are at Illinois on Friday, at Nebraska Sunday, and then they are at Miami the following Friday. But 2 Big Ten teams on the slate here. But they've had some time off since their last matchup against Tulsa last Sunday when they lost 4-1. Right now they are 1-3 to start the season. But 2 Big Ten opponents here, Bryson. This is going to be tough for them, isn't it?
Oh, yes. This is a young group. I'm going to emphasize this over and over again. This is a very, very young group. And so this is as much a growing opportunity as it is, competing. And of course, as we know, John Roddick always has a tough schedule laid out for these teams. So don't forget to keep an eye on Bogdan Pavel and Leighton Cronhay as a doubles pair. They're the 28th ranked players in the country during that Tulsa matchup. So that'll be something to keep an eye out for. But I would just say keep in mind that they're young and they're still growing, but you never know what can happen, because this is a very talented group of youngsters that John Roddick has over there.
Right. Nick, I want to get you in here to talk a little soccer. You were at the Central Florida Crusaders debut over the weekend. Of course, we know the indoor soccer team that plays at Edition Financial Arena on campus. They have a men's and a women's team. They play doubleheaders had their home debut, and even though the women came up short against the Memphis Americans, one former UCF player, I should say, had a very solid debut for them, didn't she?
Yeah, Yvonne Hayes. Well, first of all, she's officially in the history books because she scored the opening goal of the game, meaning she scored the first goal in franchise history. And she would later, net another one later in the game. And, it really was overall for the team, they lost, but it really was a back and forth game. And there's really no shame in losing to the Memphis Americans because they were last season's champion. And even in the press conference, their coach was very highly praising the team. These two teams will face each other a couple more times. And both teams made it seem like, at the end of the day, this season could come down to those two. So, no shame in them for losing. But again, Hayes, she had an amazing game. She's the captain for the reason. She was she was the first player signed by the team. As Coach Tom Trexler noted in his postgame, they thought it was really important to get people who had played for UCF to try to build a foundation with the community. And so by having her is really big. And, her play on the field that day really showed why not only was she big for the community, but she was big for, on the field.
Got a good recap on blackandgoldbanneret.com as well of the women's game as well as the men's game. Went to overtime and the men won, right?
Yeah, that was so fun, man. Oh my God, I can't even describe it. When you first go in, it's kind of weird looking. The crowd wasn't as big as you'd think. When they were doing the national anthem, they didn't even use mics. You could just hear because they brought in these little kids to sing it. You could hear them without the microphone. But the moment the game started, you would have thought it was packed in there. It was so fun. The men fell behind by 3 goals at one point. They literally come back. They score the tying goal with less than 2 minutes left, thanks to a power play, and then less than a minute in overtime. They break away, fire one to the back of the net, and next thing you know, players are hopping over the boards, celebrating. Some players are jumping into the crowd because they're right on there.
Yeah, they're on. The fans are on top of you in that place.
Yeah, there were a couple of times someone got fouled near the boards. There was one I always remember. It was kind of a 50-50. You didn't really know which one the ref was going to call. It went against Central Florida, and all these fans who I think were a support group for an individual player just immediately went up and right in front of the referee. I'm just sitting up there oh God, this poor referee. I'm so sorry.
I think it looked to me like it was a pretty fun environment. I was catching some of the game on YouTube. What I really appreciate too, and I think you saw that as well, the fan support for the former UCF players. Obviously, you mentioned Yvonne Hayes, formerly Yvonne George. Bridget Callahan's out there, a couple other players who played at UCF. And we saw several alumni from UCF women's soccer out there supporting them. I know Courtney Whidden, who is a teammate and a player who I covered when I was on campus. So she was there in the crowd with her family supporting Yvonne and Bridget, and that was a lot of fun. Now, and she mentioned something about a blue card. What's a blue card?
I was wondering that too, but as you watch the game, you can understand it. So if you remember in our last podcast, I was talking about how there are power plays.
Yeah. If
you get blue carded, that's a power play.
Okay.
So, yeah, they do have yellow cards, so it's like that. But if you get a blue card, you're just sent off for 2 minutes.
So a blue card is a power play foul. A yellow card is a technical foul.
Yes.
And a red card is you're just out. Go
yeah,
away.
And I got to tell you, the prior 2 days, I was down in Sunrise for the NHL All-Star game, so I was still kind of in a hockey mode. And it's I never left because there were so many moments where it was I was literally watching hockey. If you look at my Twitter, you'll see some of the examples. Players are hopping over the boards. And I think some of for non-soccer fans, some of the bigger complaints about the sport is, all the flopping or the light fouls. Yeah, that doesn't exist in indoor soccer. I swear to God, one person is literally getting head checked into the boards. It literally looked like a hockey hit.
Oh boy.
Oh man.
Yeah.
So this sounds like a fun time as long as everyone's careful out there. Okay. I mean, it's
not like they're just throwing each other, but it is very physical. It is very chaotic. And
go ahead, Bryson.
By the way, I want to say, props to the Edition Arena staff because you saw this on a tweet earlier, and thank you for taking a picture of that, Nick, because the staff had a 24-hour window, less than 24 hours, from the ECU women's basketball matchup to the Crusaders opening match, and they made that switch like that. They were starting like even while I was in the media room talking to Coach Messer. So, well, props to the Edition Arena staff for making such a quick transition on that.
Yeah, that was good. That was fun. And you guys took some pretty cool photos of that. I thought that was pretty neat. So next game at home, Nick, when are we going to see the Crusaders again?
So they get a week off. They'll be back on the 18th, back at home, playing against the NISL's other new team, the Tampa Bay Strikers, who are, oddly enough, coached by former NFL Pro Bowl kicker Martin Gramatica.
Tampa Bay Buccaneers legend Martin Gramatica.
Yep.
So, all right, cool. All right. So we'll be keeping an eye on that as we finish up. Anything else? Drew, am I missing anything? I usually forget something.
Not really. I mean,
there's a football game Sunday.
There is a football game.
That's kind of like, eh.
Yeah, you're a Browns fan. You don't even know what the Super Bowl is.
UCF alumni have a chance to earn a ring.
We know what it is.
Okay. That's It's just it's kind of like it's kind of like, you know, an exoplanet for you guys. Like, you know what it is, but that's about it.
Yeah, I mean, like you send scouts and probes there, but you never actually experienced it.
Don't know what it's like there. You know, can't walk on the surface. Nick, are there any UCF Knights who have a chance to get some jewelry this weekend?
Jordan Franks and Matthew Wright, both are on the Chiefs practice squad. I don't know about Wright, but maybe Franks has a chance to get elevated to the active roster. Like, that does sometimes happen. Sometimes teams will elevate a practice squad player to the active roster for the Super Bowl. So maybe
usually that happens if there's an injury, though. If there's like a late matchup, though, I think.
And
right,
if
Drew?
they win, they'll get a ring.
Yeah, but they're on the. But they're on the roster, so Matthew Wright could get a Super Bowl ring.
Yeah, he could.
Worked for Michael Greco.
There's a
Michael Greco, yeah.
I believe it's a Sports Illustrated article. This is from a few years ago. It was actually from the last time the Eagles were in the Super Bowl when they were playing the Patriots. It's like a really interesting thing about what it's like to be a practice squad player on a Super Bowl team. It's really interesting. I recommend you guys go read it. I'll try to find it and I'll send you the link because I think it's really good at showing the perspective of someone who's like, you know, working out with the team but doesn't actually get the opportunity to play.
Yeah, that's cool. Good
I
stuff.
mean, Matthew Wright getting the Super Bowl ring. I mean, his life already is such a flex, and so adding a Super Bowl ring into the equation is like, I mean, come on, man.
What'd you do while you were on leave from your engineering job? Oh, I won a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Okay. Good luck to Matt. Good luck to Jordan. Good luck to the Chiefs. And no good luck to Philly. Sorry, I'm a Giants fan, and also I want UCF guys to get a ring. So
I'm torn on this. There are two players that graduated from my dad's high school, the Kelsey brothers. So which one do I side with at that point? Do I root for Philly to spite Jeff, which is a lot of fun, or do I root for KC for Matthew Wright and Jordan Frank?
Listen, Cleveland.
Root for KC for our safety. If Philly wins, they're going to destroy the world.
Yeah, I mean, if you thought
that may be an improvement.
If you thought when they beat Brady it was going to be bad, wait till what happens if they beat Mahomes. Oh God! All right, we'll be following that next Sunday. Hope you guys enjoy the Super Bowl. Follow us as usual, UCF Banneret _SBN. You can follow me at Jeff _Shannon. Follow Eric at Eric Lopez Elo. Bryson is at It's Bryson Turner. Drew is at Statboy Drew, and Nick is at Nick Porcelli and the number 2. Nick Porcelli 2 on Twitter. Of course, you can follow us on Facebook as well as Instagram, YouTube, where you can find our latest interviews from UCF Softball Media Day. Don't forget to look out for Bryson's piece, everything you need to know about UCF Softball coming up. And what else? Mention YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. Yeah, that's pretty much it right there. So I think we're all set to go. All right, so got a lot to talk about for this week. Hope you enjoyed the show, and we will see you for softball opening night on Thursday. UCF against Georgia. Elo on the call. That'll be fun to watch as well as all of our other content that we'll be having on Black Gold Banneret. For everyone here at Black Gold Banneret, for Drew, Bryson, Eric, Nick, I'm Jeff. Thank you so much for listening. Don't forget to follow also Kyle, the SOTG, for the students of the game on Twitter as well. For all of us here at Black Gold Banneret, have a great week. Go Knights. Charge on.